Okay, hello everyone. This is Ming from the SMA Product Management team. This is our first practitioner forum session for the SMA-SM, including the Service Manager Classic. So for today's session, we mainly focus on the experience sharing for the SMA mixed mode early adopter. So for the mixed mode here, we mean for the service portal side, you are using the SMA service portal inside of the container, and on the backend side, we are connecting to the Service Manager Classic as a backend fulfillment system. Okay, let's go to the next page to take a look at this today's agenda. So firstly, I want to give you some brief introduction about what is the early adopter program we have been done for the mixed mode. That's a new simplified mixed mode we introduced since 2019 February release. And then the Yang from the R&D will give you some experience sharing about the one of the early adopters who has been who already go live with this February mixed mode adoption. And after that, the Philip from the product management team will give you some heads up and some suggestion and recommendation from the PS perspective around what kind of guidance we would recommend for the customer who would like to adopt the mixed mode. And then afterward, I will give some heads up or some update about what's the key improvement around the mixed mode in the May release, which already generally available last month. And we have a dedicated Q&A session, but during the session, if you have any question, please feel free to raise your question in the question panel, and we will go through that question later. Okay. About the early adopter program for the mixed mode, actually, as you may know that in the February release for the mixed mode, we really do a significant change. So firstly, we remove the propel layer completely. So that's an architecture change on the portal side, and also from the deployment perspective, we introduced a single deployment which allow our customer to deploy SM talent and SMAX talent in the same deployment. So without additional installation and configuration and the corresponding effort to support two different type of the deployment that we used to do in the previous version. So in this, based on that significant change we introduced in the February release, especially for the SM customers, we launch early adopter program for the customer who want to adopt the February mixed mode. So in this program, our purpose is quite clear. We want to validate the architecture change and to validate the value of the mixed mode for our SM install base. And of course, consequently, we hope we can get to the reference customer if we can help them to go live with this mixed mode successfully. So due to the R&D's and the lab's capacity and resource, we previously decided to, and we finally selected 3 customers for this early adopter program of the mixed mode, and so far 2 of them has the production system is already live in the May. So later, Yang from the R&D team will give you some update about some latest update and our recommendation and lesson learned from one of these go live customers for the February's mixed mode. So you can get more details about the customer feedback about around this new simplified mixed mode, and what kind of the recommendation and lesson learned we can share with you from the customer's perspective. So, I would say in general, even before we make this mixed mode release available to all the customers, even during the beta testing, we already could get very positive feedback from the customers and the views. And with this simplified solution, it really addressed many customers' concerned, which has existed in the previous mixed mode. We address a lot of complexity, and to make it a more simplified, more clean solution, and to provide a better performance and user experience for both IT technician and the service portal and the users. So about the customer case, Yang, hand over to you.
Okay, thank you, Ming. Hello everyone, this is Jan Stoibe from R&D, and I helped one customer which was selected as early adopter in this program to set up the new mixed mode and help them to go live with this new solution. And I'd like to share the experience I collected together with this customer. So let me first briefly explain the customer profile. So basically this is the customer we selected here for this exercise is an IT service provider in Germany. And at the moment they are managing around 100 customers with their current service manager instance. And as many customers do at the moment, they look for a new modern end user portal, because previous portals the customer used was quite old style and not state of the art anymore. Therefore they decided to go with a new portal, and they started already last year in May 2018 or May 05 with Docker and Kubernetes journey, and they use the previous version of the portal, the one from last year. And on top of that, they also use a SMA-SM instance from August last year for some other customers, and so that means Service Manager and SMA-SM is running in parallel there in their environment. But for Service Manager customers, the main purpose was to get a new portal here. So based on the status, based on the details that they started with the May release from 2018, they got the new look and feel, and they also have seen some challenges there in the old version, and that was one reason why we selected this customer as early adopter, because they can then really easily compare and prove and validate basically the improvements we have put in place between these two versions. Ming, next page please. So the main reasons for this customer to adopt the 2019-02 release are the following. First, simplified architecture, because in this new release we removed a lot of legacy technology from previous portals and made it much simpler in the architecture we put in place. So that means it's easier to deploy, and it's also more stable than to run finally, because for example, the system does not replicate all kind of data between Service Manager backend and the portal anymore. With a simplified architecture, we have a simpler web service-based communication between Service Manager backend and the portal frontend, which reads the data directly. And this customer really liked the simplified architecture, because in the previous version, the last year's version, they struggled a lot with complexity, but also from stability point of view. Another reason why to adopt this new release was we provide some new functionality here. Like it's now possible to customize the checkout panel really easily by some configurations in the Service Manager backend. This was not possible in the previous versions of the portal. And yeah, together with the simplified architecture, we have improved stability and performance. So this goes hand in hand, and the customer noticed this immediately and gave us a very good feedback on this fact. And I think one of the main reasons why to adopt this release as soon as possible was that since 2019-02 release, it's possible to have one deployment for SMA-SM, so the portal for Service Manager, and the SMAX environment. And as I introduced before, this customer is running the portal for SM and SMAX in the 2018 versions. So that means they had to deploy it on 2 farms with 2 set of servers, which is a high footprint, as some of you probably know. And now with the 2019-02 release, it was possible to combine both of these installations into one deployment and run the SMAX instance of 2019-02 and the SMA-SM portal version on the same hardware, which is a huge saving for them to move forward. So these are the key reasons for this customer to adopt. Ming, next page, please. From execution point of view, the way we executed this was in the following. We first started, of course, setting up a test environment, and the test environment was released, I think, end of March, and we started immediately, or beginning of March, and we started immediately installing it there. And after 4 days, the release was installed because we had to sort out first couple of firewall rules and organize the hardware and all these kind of things. We also had to install and configure idle because this customer was not using idle and smart search first. So they had to collect experience here and install it and configure it to make the end-to-end use cases working. So then we started testing after around of 18th of March and found immediately with some defects here. Because defects were with some attributes which were not properly handled, some queries they had in user options didn't work properly anymore, mainly related to the user who is doing who is ordering something from the portal. But luckily we knew this already from R&D, and we've provided them a fix with patch 1 to get these issues sorted. And after this patch 1 was installed, we plan to go live already, and I come to the production environment later on. But then close to go live, we found a last minute defect which happened only in Internet Explorer. And to not block the go live, R&D luckily provided a hotfix we could easily reproduce, and so we provided on a very quick turnaround a hotfix to the customer, installed it, and it worked, and the customer could go live as planned. So after the test environment then was set up, we of course implemented also the production environment partially in parallel. So as we waited for the patch, we of course started with the production environment. And production environment, we simply installed the portal first, or the SMAX system. So we just all together in one installation now. So we installed this first, and once the servers have been set up with all the required infrastructure, we did first a stress test. So that means we put a high load on the servers. We shut down the servers, so we simulated unexpected outages. So we simply stopped the VM to see how the system is recovering automatically. We stopped the database. Such kind of tests we did here, and the system recovered really without any issues automatically for all these situations, which gave another proof point to the customer that the new version is much more stable than earlier versions here, because for exactly similar test cases with the 2018 releases, it failed in many cases, or it was costing much more effort to recover the system. But with 2019-02 releases, we really proved this is working much better now. Of course, we also installed the patch 1 in the production environment, and in the second step, we installed and configured idle, and this was a little bit decoupled from the SMA installation on the Linux servers, because when you install idle and configure it, you have to change something in Service Manager. And since this time it was a production system, we had to wait until change requests have been approved and scheduled, and an outage or a maintenance window was then required to put these changes in place, that then the front-end portal can connect to the Service Manager backend idle system, that catalog items and knowledge documents, for example, can be searched and found from the portal itself. And last but not least, due to the last minute hotfix, we installed this also in production environment, and then we finally went live by mid of May. This sounds now like a long time frame from beginning of March to mid of May. Therefore, I also, Ming, can you please go to the next slide? I also put a timeline here to show also that there have been several breaks in between. As I said, we started in March with installation of the test system and set up Smart Search. We tested, and then in April, end of March and beginning of April, there was the MF Micro Focus Universe break. So the customer attended this universe where we had 1 week basically stopped working on the suite. We also then, the week after, there was the customer joined the SMA training, which basically was another week where we did not continue working on it. And in April, we also installed into production system, page 1. Then we had the Easter break. So you see, if you would have continuously worked on this, the overall duration would have been much shorter. But yeah, this is, I think, a realistic timeline, because I guess in other environments, you also have some holidays to consider, that not all, or trainings that not all team members are available all the time. So in general, I think 2 months is a valid time frame to install this by setting up a test and a production environment to go live. That's the experience from this customer. So what are the lessons learned of this journey? And this is always something I'm from R&D looking for, because this helps me then to give this feedback to my team members to improve our software solutions, and also to make it even better, more stable, and also easier to implement. So what's certainly required is a Linux expert. So it's highly recommended to have a Linux expert organized during the installation and configuration of the suite, because certain parameters on Linux kernel settings, caching settings need to be modified to achieve best performance. And if you are not really familiar with Linux, you may find it difficult to do that. But a Linux expert is, for them, it should be easy to implement this. You also need to set up NFS on a Linux system. You have to maybe change some firewall logic, so therefore a Linux expert is strongly recommended. What I also learned is that you need to read and follow the documentation carefully. Sometimes we assume that some steps are not required, or we assume that some steps work in a little other way, as from your experience or from your knowledge in the history. But don't assume that. It's sometimes difficult then when you don't follow the recommendations step by step, because that causes some follow-up issues which are really hard to troubleshoot. So my lesson learned here is, if the documentation is carefully read and followed, the installation succeeds in most of the cases. And what I also learned is we have a sizing guide in our documentation, but especially for installation, it's better to start with a higher capacity than recommended, especially on the memory side. So it's safer to have initially at least a higher memory setup, that the system can be safely installed. After the installation, it can be reduced on virtual machines. It's easy to increase and reduce memory, and that's another lessons learned for installations. Start with a higher capacity. And then in regards to idle and smart search configuration for customers which did not install that yet, this takes time, because you implement basically a new functionality in Service Manager. So the Smart Search feature, which was previously available with idle features, Smart Analytics features, becomes now available. And this will change the behavior, how users work. So you have a new global search feature. You have the Smart Search feature when you directly work in incidents or other records. So that means you need to test this, set this up properly, and probably maybe also inform your end users that they are aware of this new functionality, that they can use it properly, and that they get introduced into that. So don't underestimate the time for the idle and smart search installation and configuration. The next lessons learned is, since you now can customize your checkout panel, this is something which needs reviewing and maybe fine-tuning in the customer environments, depending what has been configured there before, if a customer used SRC, for example. So that is one advice here from my side. Once you have this installed, check out these customizations which might be there already, or which maybe only out of the box setting, which may not cover your requirements here. And then I think a big lesson learned for this, at least at this customer, the close collaboration with R&D out of this early adopter program was really key to success, because as you have seen, we found defects which have not been covered in the GA version of February release, but due to the close collaboration, we could quickly analyze them and fix them, and of course that will benefit now all other customers as well, because these issues we found are fixed. Yeah, these are the 6 key lessons learned from this customer. Ming, next page, please. So to summarize, the February release of 2019 is seen as a huge improvement compared to the last year's releases, SMA-SM 2018-05 or SMAX 2018-08. The customer confirmed that it's easier to install, it's more stable and robust, and it does not cause that many issues and data inconsistencies as they had before in the older versions. And also the setup and configuration of the portal is much simpler, because the new UI for these configuration items is new and less has less options compared to the Propel kind of backend administration area. So it's much easier to use now. And what this customer in particular likes is that after deploying this new version, the SMAX environments they want to run on this farm as well was just 1 click away. So 1 click means once they have it installed, they created their SM backend tenant, and with the same procedures, they could also create a SMAX tenant to have a full SMAX instance configured and deployed on the same hardware component. Nevertheless, of course, of all these good news, the customer is looking forward to next releases, because there are still some, they call it gaps, and which they would like to see closed to come closer to the level of features we provided in our SRC portal, you know, the old portal from which using Flash technology. So customers really looking forward to this, to get even more features exposed in the portal. Yeah, and that's basically a quick sharing from this customer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yang. And I want to add one more comments about one of the lesson learned, and that is idle and smart search configuration. Because this is something changed the way in the February release. Is previously, if you are familiar with previous mix mode in the SMA, previously in the portal side we actually support both idle-based search, we call it a smart search in the service manager side, or the Solr-based search. We support both of them in the mix mode. But from the February release, to simplify the configuration, simplify the complexity in the SMA container, we decided we only support idle-based search in the mix mode in the source portal. So which means from the February release, if you are the customer who is using Solr-based search, you need to migrate from Solr-based search to the idle-based search. And previously, Smart Search will consume Smart Analytics license in the Service Manager side. But in order to support that, this decision we made in the SMA mixed mode side, we decided to make the Smart Search for free for to all SM customers. So which means we provide a corresponding unload to the SM version supported in the mixed mode, which means from the Service Manager 941 process design PD version to the SM 960X version. We provide a corresponding unload to support this free smart search capability. So as long as you are the SM customers, And even you don't need the SMA license, but as long as you are SM customer and you have SM Classic license, you can apply this download and to get to the idle-based smart search for free. So that's one of the major changes we also made from the February release mix mode. Okay, next I will invite the Philip from the SMA product management team to give you some sharing about our recommendation based on the based on the PS project sharing. So Philip.
Yep, thank you. And for the ones who think if it is the Philip Koch that used to be in PS, yes it is. I switched my job.
Sorry, Philip, your voice, can you speak louder?
Yeah, I can. Is that better?
A little bit louder.
Okay. Then I need to shout. I'll do that. That's fine.
Yeah, it's better now. Yeah.
So we tried, or we were engaged as PS when I was still on the PS side, and there's some other people that have been part of this as well. I'm just summed it up into a quick PowerPoint of what we've advised in one of the other customers that we're working with. And this is what the slide deck is. It's just a simple 3 or 4 slides on what we need to consider when we go towards this. This is in the context of thinking ahead that the mix mode could be an first step to move towards max and to evolve towards max. So consider that in the context, and that's why we have those considerations. This does not mean that you have to do those recommendations. This is just an help that we thought is worth sharing when a customer has an interest of actually evolving to SMAX in the near future, right? So the one element which we want to highlight is that we should already, or we could already start to align the catalog structure towards the SMAX service model structure. And that structure on the SMAX side is different than in Service Manager in the context of that it is on 2 category levels, or on 2 layers, if you want to call it like that. They're not just categories. On the SMAX side, there is a master category level, as in the first layer is the category. The second layer in the catalog structure is something called service definition. And the third layer is the actual catalog offering. Whereas in Service Manager, you define what the categories are, and you can build a multi-tier tree of categories, and you then decide if the category is now no longer a category and starts to contain items or not. That's how it works in Service Manager. So those 2 catalog structures are not exactly the same. It's not an issue for the mix mode when you put the SMA-SM portal in front of classical Service Manager, but when you go forward for the future, you will have to do some adjustments. And here, in case that you are in the process of reviewing your catalog, or you take the mix mode rollout project as an opportunity of improving or reviewing your catalog, then take this into consideration because it can help you for the future. So as already stated, and you can jump to the next slide because you've already read this. The next slide is a repetition of the SMAX service model. If you switch the slide, please, Ming. So this is a view from the SMAX side, just as an explanation. This is, of course, all publicly available, but here you can see that you have the categories as a top level, which is what you see exposed on the portal, also on the SMA-SM portal. And then the service definition is a description of what the service is all about that this category contains. And on the other side, the offerings, which offerings are defined to fulfill or to do actions and requests, support requests or service requests in context of that service definition. So that's the 3 layers that was highlighted in the page before. Now, this view is of course not visible in Service Manager, but it is possible to create that structure in the existing Service Manager catalog structure. So this slide here is just a repetition, or what do you call it, a preparation for the ones who want to look towards max. If you jump to the next slide, Ming, because what I've presented or what I talked about now is the aspects of the internal view, of the internal perspective of how do we structure the catalog. When we look at this from the external perspective, what's the impact there? So We know now that the SMA-SM portal is only showing us the top level category. That's the tiles and the square boxes that you see on the portal. So one thing, and this is already generically true, is that that level should be written in a way that an end user understands. Right? This should not be an internal technology description of the category. It should be expressed in a language that is understandable for the user. It should be clear. It should be unambiguous, so the user can choose. And the third one, which is a tricky one to normally implement, especially when we come from the service manager space, is that we normally propose or say that we should keep the numbers of top-level categories to a limited number. Now, if you're asking me what that is, if this is 6 or if this is 50, it is not 50, and it can be more than 6. We quite often internally, when we talk about this, we say 6 to 15, somewhere there. Then it is workable when you look at the screen. At the end of the day, it is your decision on how many you have, but sort of from a usability perspective, I think a limited number is what you're aiming for. Then the second thing that has changed, and Ming has mentioned it with the idle search engine, the way you interact, especially when you have a larger catalog, is through the search. Now, as in utilizing the search and utilizing the idle engine to actually find your item, because of that rather flat structure of the front end on the portal of the catalog, it's unlikely that you're going to go scroll through a list of several, can be even hundred of offerings if you make it very flat. So you're using the search. This will automatically mean that you need to define, or you need to register and document your offerings in a way that the search actually finds them properly. So spend enough time and a good description, or an explicit and detailed description of the catalog item in the catalog when you maintain and when you create your offerings. Try to be thorough on that, because it will be used by the index, and the better you make that description, and the more explicit and more detailed you make it, the more likely the hit rate will be from the search engine. It's similar to Google. So if you Google something, if you're searching for the right and explicit description, your hit rate is going to be better than if you're writing it fluffy. It's in the same context. You can go one slide further. So to sum this up a little bit, in context of what we're looking at, some general comments that we've seen when we look at this, and this is not exhaustive, this is just a quick list of what we've seen and in the conversations we've had with the customer as well as internal. So if we're using the above guidelines, that would make it easier for us. So we believe we don't have a live customer that has actually done that. As you know, this is rather new. But following those above guidelines, we're pretty confident that we can migrate seamlessly, or more seamlessly, towards SMAX and the SMAX catalog, because the migration in itself is not there, but the move over, because we're having the same structure, will make life a lot easier than if we don't start to align that structure. Then the other bullets that are listed here is the aspect of that there's certain features which Service Manager has, or there are certain features that the portal supports or does not support, that afterwards need to be considered when you go into SMAX. One of them is the aspects that you can have multiple parent categories on the Service Manager side, whereas on the SMAX side you don't have that. On the SMAX side, every offering has one parent service definition, which is that layer number 2 when you put it into Service Manager, whereas in Service Manager you could actually have multiple. Try to refrain from doing this, because it will give you a headache later on. Then there's a few limitations that are on the Service Manager side, which don't exist in SMAX. So for example, as written on here, the catalog tree limits itself to support offerings and service offerings. In SMAX terminology, that's called support offerings and service offerings. In Service Manager, in context, it's a support item or a service item. Not really a concern, it's just something to be aware of. And then what you have in Service Manager, that's the last bullet, which we actually already started on the first slide on. You can have categories that contain categories that contain categories, and you can build a whole tree. We're actually using that possibility in Service Manager, and the way it is implemented in Service Manager, that you cannot put items into a category that you define as a category, that helps us to establish that structure that SMAX is also enforcing with the 3-tier layers. So this is all of it. I don't have another slide. This was just a summary of what we've been discussing, tried to sum this up and write this up, and wanted to share this with the community. Back to you, Ming.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. So yeah, that's Yang, based on the Yang and the Philip was sharing. And the next I want to Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you again. Yeah, Ming, you have been.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why I was muted. So yeah, next I will quickly go through the key improvement we made in the May release for the mixed mode, especially on the source portal side. And I will not go through every improvement or enhancement. I just select the most important one I want to share with you. Okay, the first one is about regular expression and help text support on the user option level. I suppose this is one of the improvement which have been requested by many customers for quite a long time. And from the May release, we implement this in the mixed mode portal side. So basically, in the May release, we allow customer to define. So firstly, to define the regex rule and define help text definition in the source manager side, in the source catalog management for each user option. If there are time for the help task, it can be supported for all type of the user option. And of course, for the regex or regular expression rules, it's available for the user option with a specific type equals to text or string. So as you can see in the current screen, once you define those help tasks and the regular expression in the source manager side corresponding, consequently, that rule will be applied and the help task will be displayed accordingly in the source portal side. And please note that for this new improvement, it will be supported in both SM95X and the 96X. So which means we will have additional unload to be supported for the different SM version around those two capability. Another key improvement in the May release about the search request. So previously in the portal side, we have a global search for the knowledge article, for the offering including service offering or support offering, but something missing is around the basic request search. Previously, we have workaround is allow to use the request search. So from the May release, we make this search request available and combine them together in the global search as well. So as you can see in the current screen, either in the global search, we add one checkbox, we call it request. So when you type something in the global search box, all the search result will be displayed here, including the search result in the knowledge offering and the request. And of course, in the dedicated search screen, for the screen on the top right side, as you can see in the dedicated request search form, you can search the request by request ID, by title, by all request description, which have been indexed in the IDOs for the search purpose. So accordingly, your request list will be displayed based on the search criteria. So that's something we improved in the May release around the search request. And besides the checkout panel customization support in the February release, we continue to enhance our customization capability for the service portal. So one of the key improvements in May release is around the request detail forms. So checkout panel is to support the customization before you submit the request. But once one request has been submitted by requester, previously the request detail page, the information and the field to be displayed are hard-coded. So from the May release, we make this page customized. As you can see in the current screen, especially for the screen on the left-hand side. In the Service Manager side, we provide a tailoring wizard to allow customer to define the list of the fields to be displayed in the request page, as long as this field is part of the interaction table. It can be displayed in the request detail page. So for the steps to configure those tailoring wizard is quite similar with the way you do in the checkout panel customization. So once all the definition has been defined in the Service Manager side, in the portal side, corresponding details will be displayed in the request detail page of the service portal. So that's another improvement in the May release. And also from the May release, we start to invest some effort on the accessibility support. So in the May, we mainly focus on the two parts. One is the keyboard navigation, and we provide some meaningful keyboard sequence to support the keyboard navigation in the service portal main page. And also for the screen reader, we start to provide some label and instruction for the common widgets, like the text, some text checkbox, some basic and very common widget. Not all of them we support this screen reader from the May release, but please note that for the keyboard navigation, all the supported browsers in the SMA can be supported as well for the keyboard navigation. But for the screen reader, we mainly focus on the combination of the JAWS 2018 plus Chrome, because during the lab testing, we do find that I do have many problems to support the screen reader with JAWS. So that's and Chrome has a better testing result. So that's the reason for the screen reader part, we mainly focus on the Chrome as the main browser supported. Okay, so that's accessibility improvement in the portal side. And something I also want to highlight in May is about the multiple SM talent support. So previously in the Yang's sharing for that German customers, they deploy both SM talent and SMAX talent in one deployment. But in the May release at that time, we only support to add only one SM talent in the SMA, and plus, of course, but for SMAX, you can have a multiple SMAX talent, even in the February release. And we understood for the multiple SM talent support is also very common. No matter you are the customer, you want to deploy multiple SM talent with different SM version, or you want to deploy multiple SM talent for dev, QA, and the production environment purpose. That multiple SM talent is a very common requirement. So from the May release, we expand this capability and allow customer to create multiple service manager talent and integrate them with different external service manager version. No matter it's from the service manager 941 PD to 95X and to the 96X, you can choose different version with different SM talent in one single deployment. So, but for the account assigned to the SM talent, we do provide some guidelines and suggestions. So, in case you want to deploy multiple SM service manager talent, we highly recommend you to take a look at the suggestion we provided in the link shared in the current screen, and that's something I think I will want to highlight in this release. So next, I think we can skip the demo and firstly go to the question panel. I like to check first if you have any question. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, one question is, where do we find the patch 1 for this release and what it fixed? So Yang, I think this is it's a common patch channel for the SMA, but later I can share you the link. But for the what it fixed it, I cannot remember exactly one. But Yang, maybe you can share what has been fixed for that German customers, in case.
Yeah, I mean, several issues have been fixed, but the most important one for this customer was that the requested for variable is supported now. And you know, when you log into the portal, you know who is requesting at this point in time, and depending on the requester, you may want to show in user options different items based on dynamic queries in the backend. And typically this requires that you use the $requested.for variable in user options as a filter. And this variable was not supported initially, and patch 1 fixed that issue. That was the main reason this customer required patch 1. Otherwise, all the user options, or most of the user options, did not work properly anymore. And apart from that, one moment, let me quickly look up what else did we fix in patch 1. 1 second, please.
And Carol, in case if you don't know where to find the patch, maybe you can later you can send me a mail. I can send you the link.
Okay, we fixed in the patch something with date and number fields which have not been displayed correctly. Then the fixed price was incorrectly calculated, and it's now fixed as well in patch 1 for February release, which is also included all in the May release already, so you don't need to install a patch for May release. This is all included. And then yeah, some back-end improvements. When you install the Service Manager tenant, for example, there was no way if the gateway, so gateway is a port which is the interface between the SM outside the suite and the portal inside the suite, and the GSM gateway port, you didn't know if it was started when you deploy a tenant. There's also an improvement in that you get a warning message if this port is not running. So that's basically the patch 1, and we can, I think, we can also share the link to the fixed issues of patch 1 that everyone can also read this in the server. Yeah.
But I need to find the link.
I send to you, no problem.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. And by the way, I suppose in the online help, let me double check. In the online help, you're supposed to see the link of the patch 1, if I remember correctly.
I chat with you in another chat session. You can share later then.
Okay.
And Teams, you can copy it from Teams if you like.
Okay, let me. Or maybe Yang, you can just share in the chat room of the webinar, so everyone can see the link.
Yeah, I can try.
Okay. And the next question
I'm not
is
sure
about.
Everyone can see it, but yeah, I shared
it.
In the chat.
I can see now. Yeah.
But I only have organizers and pane list only. I'm not sure if every attendee can see this link.
Okay. So Carrie, you can check whether you can get that link through the chat room. And the next question is about reference customers. So one of the key objectives for this early adopter program is to get to the reference customer for the mixed mode. So now since 2 of the customers already go live, now we are in the process to get those 2 customers as a reference customer for mixed mode, but we're still in the formal reference process, not finished yet. So, and once we finish that process, we can share that information with the community, and you can get that the formal information from the reference team as well. And the next question is about the upgrade from the February to May. I'm not sure I fully understand that question, but if we are talking about the mixed mode upgrade, so previously, when we introduced the February mixed mode, due to the architecture and the deployment change, we don't support upgrade from the previous mixed mode to the February mixed mode. But from the February, the upgrade from the February to May, I don't think there's any difference compared to the normal SMAX upgrade. So I'm not sure I answered this question or not, or maybe Yang, you want to add more comments?
No, the upgrade itself works similar as for previous releases. You have to upgrade CDF first from February to May CDF, and then after CDF is upgraded, you need to do the suite upgrade basically. It's the same then for previous versions.
Yeah, that's also my understanding. And the problem with user option that have query on them to match table. So Carrie, I'm not sure whether you have a support case raised for this. If you have support case, you can send me more details. I can double check that. But I'm not sure. But I suppose this should work. But I need more details to double check that. You can send me the mail later. Yeah. Okay. So, is there any other questions? I'm not sure whether you can unmute yourself or I have to mute everyone. So do you have any question? Or if you cannot speak, maybe you can type your question in the question panel. Okay, if there's no more question, maybe, okay. Sorry, Karen, do you have any question to ask?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, this is Karan. I'm from the Reliance India. So
yes.
we have the service manager implemented here for 9.5 version, and we are just looking forward to migrate in the this SMA. So my question is, we have a database here. Can we implement just like the ServiceNow on cloud, and my service catalog? Can we also migrate with the SMA?
Sorry, can you repeat your questions? I didn't hear very clearly.
So
you are now in the SM Service Manager 950, right? and you want to you want to move to the SMA.
Yeah, we have to move on with the SMA. Is it possible?
I think you can use yes, if you're on 950 SM950, yes, you can install this portal and then connect it with your current service manager instance. Yes, this should work. This is
yes,
also
and also I want to mention that for this mix mode, you don't need a SMA license. As long as you have SM license, you can get this mix mode for free. So the main purpose for offering this free offering is we want to move our existing SM customer moving to the SMA, but firstly giving them some try before they really do some license change to the SMA, and also for some SRC customers, as that's the existing service portal supported in a service manager. As you may know that SRC is based on the Adobe Flash, which will be end of supported by Adobe end of next year, if I remember correctly. So we want to provide alternative solution for those type of the customer as well. So that's the reason we offer this mix mode for free for SM customer.
So in additionally, I want to ask, can I get a chatbot with SMA?
Chatbot for SMA? Yeah. That's a question. So for the mix mode portal, now we support chat, live chat and idle search-based virtual agent in the mixed mode portal now. And if you have some heads up on the SMA's May release, you may know that in May we introduced a new natural language processing-based virtual agent or chatbot in the SMA's from May release, and for that virtual agent or chatbot is not supported in this mixed mode yet.
And so, if the chatbot is not supported with mixed mode, can we have a ability to integrate with Skype?
If I remember correctly, for the live chat, we already support the integration with Skype.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah.
So thanks a lot. I got my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next question is SMA-SM to SMA-SM migration. So Yang, maybe you are the right candidate to answer this.
So what's the question? Just a general question, SMA-SM to SMA-SM migration?
Yeah, do we have any process and plan for SMA-SM to SMA-SM migration?
Yes, and Philip can also complement here because he is part of this program. We have the so-called evolution program, which has a package of PowerPoint slides, but also some tools, basically to guide the customer in the way to make this journey, to start this journey in the right direction. There are a bunch of recommendations and best practices already collected together. Philip, how can a customer again get access to this program, that he can get access to the collateral we have defined there?
Yeah, the easiest is reach out to your sales rep or your sales contact, your account manager. He will reach out to the evolution group internally, and then we probably want to present this, because just sharing the slide deck, if it's taken out of context, will not help you. So that's why I'm proposing that you need to go through your account manager. It's the same thing on the partner side. So the partner should reach out to the partner manager if you haven't already received the way of how evolution is positioned.
So basically the answer, we have some collateral here. We have also some tools to move some data over. Yeah, but to get access to this, as Philip said, please contact your sales representative or partner manager.
Okay, and the next question is about a timeline. I'm afraid I'm really don't have this kind of the expected timeline for that. But maybe James, you can send me a mail, and once I got more update around this, I will let you know. But currently, I don't know whether we have some formal channel to provide some update on the reference customers. So, Philip, are you aware of such kind of the communication channel?
Hello, Raj.
Not towards the customer, at least not that I'm aware of. As in everything that happens in regards to the evolution program is normally managed through the sales channels, either partner manager or the sales manager. So because of the simple reason that we need to be able to support you and follow up on it, and if we just put it out there, we have no control.
Okay.
Because this is moving, and as you've also heard in the call today, we are moving forward, we are changing, we are improving. If we just put it out there on the website, it's static data. We don't like static data.
Okay, the next question is about does SMA-SM chatbot require smart analytics? So basically, it for the virtual agent, it's based on idle. So which means it does require idle, but as I mentioned, for in the mixed mode from February release, idle, no matter idle or idle-based smart search is for free. So basically, you don't need a smart analytics licensed to get this chatbot or virtual agent to work in the mixed mode. The next question is, many of our customers are willing to migrate from SM to SMAX as a partner. Can we get them? So I'm not sure what's the meaning of get them, but as Philip mentioned, we access the content. You mean the content in the evolution program, right? So I suppose answer is yes, right, Philip?
Well, it's the content. If you're referring to the content of what evolution does, it's the same as what we said before as well, right? Reach out to your sales manager and partner manager, and they will be able to share with you in context what matches. Right? Evolution is an internal program from a naming perspective where there's multiple streams and multiple collaterals depending on the context. So if we share you everything, you're not going to find yourself, because it is targeting multiple and it's answering multiple streams. So for that, we want to know what stream you're at, and then the sales manager or the sales contact or partner manager will reach out to the evolution group and will work with them and with you of giving you the correct material. So, for example, the connect ID scripts, the moving data from Service Manager to SMAX, only makes sense if you're using that specific data in SMAX. Maybe you don't. It's not a one-fits-all answer. That's why we want to have the contact through the sales managers and through the official channels.
So by the way, later we have one dedicated session scheduled on the 13th of July. End of next month. We'll provide more detail about this evolution program update in case customers do want to do the migration from SM to SMAX. So I would highly recommend you to participate in this dedicated session we set up for the evolution program, and you will get more detail and more detailed information about this. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if there's no more question, we can close today's session. Basically, we are already running out of time, but really appreciate your time and your effort to join today's session. That's really good feedback. And looking forward to see you next time. And from now we have a monthly and regular practitioner forum for the SM and the mixed mode customer. Okay, thank you everyone for your time today. Have a good day. Bye bye.